Good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, August 13th, and this is Queer News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It is time to queer up the news.
Watch as we bring you these and other stories from the LGBTQ headlines. Kamala Harris picks Out Lesbian Karine Jean-Pierre as Chief of Staff. And queer sex columnist lands a book deal on the art of sluthood.
Queer News Tonight has a special interview next week with infamous and self-proclaimed Trump trickster Roger Stone. This is the first interview in years for the LGBT community, and certainly since Donald Trump personally commuted his 9-year prison sentence just last month. Here is a sample of this fascinating interview. Watch this. Of that image is because Nixon taught the training of develop a bench and then be loyal to the bench.
Well, that's part of it, but let's cut to the chase.
Okay.
As you know, I have a tattoo of Richard Nixon on my back.
Getting ready to ask you about it. We're going to put that up right now because the LGBT community is going to be shocked and fascinated.
Well, first of all, it makes me the only person you know with a dick on the front and the back. But the point of this is not even a political statement. It really is.
You're going to want to stay tuned as we reveal pictures of his shirtless march in pride parades. What he says about the LGBTQ community, especially in supporting gay marriage decades before Clinton, Obama, Biden, or the Supreme Court. I read him an ad he placed in a swingers magazine inviting muscular single guys to join his wife and him. And I ask if it was true. His response is priceless. Nothing was off the table on Hillary, Russia, WikiLeaks, and so much more. You will learn what is going to happen with that tattoo you just saw becoming a Mount Rushmore of conservatives. And most interesting of all, the phone call he had last month with Donald Trump that he has never spoken of, and whether or not, I ask him, did you cry? Love him or hate him, he has been at the heart of Trump's America, and you are going to be shocked and fascinated by what he says. This premiere will be this Monday, August 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Queer News Tonight. So good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, August 13th, 2020, and it is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Joining Queer News Tonight, we are live, and this is an unedited news show, so anything can happen. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBT community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, Misty Eyes. Let's queer up the news. Tonight we begin with queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is diverse. The LGBTQ community around the world is vast, and we bring you the bullet points of queer news for today, Thursday, August 13th, 2020. We begin by queering up Vote 2020. We report that Kamala Harris picks out a lesbian, Karine Jean-Pierre, as Chief of Staff. Watch this.
I am everything that Donald Trump hates. I'm a black woman, I'm gay, I am a mom. Both my parents were born in Haiti, and they came here for the American dream. One of the things that I think that's really important is lifting up the voices of our members, of the people who feel very vulnerable, especially under this Trump administration. Folks who feel like they're voiceless, folks who feel like, hey, you know, I'm under attack every day and I just don't know what to do. I want them to turn on the TV and say, okay, she's speaking for me. My voice is being lifted.
Democratic vice presidential hopeful Kamala Harris wasted no time in showing both her commitment to the LGBTQ community and to defeating President Donald Trump in November with her selection of Black lesbian commentator, educator, and political powerhouse Karine Jean-Pierre as her new chief of staff. The MSNBC political analyst and commentator was a key figure in 3 presidential campaigns, including Barack Obama's historic victory in 2008, and successfully pressured big corporations like Walmart to change their unfair labor practices. In addition, Jean-Pierre has taught campaign management at her alma mater, Columbia University, and served as the chief public affairs officer for Move On. The LGBTQ community is absolutely thrilled by this pick.
If you want to know where someone stands, you have to listen to what they do, not what they say. She just put her money where her mouth is.
This is such a momentous moment for the LGBTQ community. This is day 1 after the announcement and the first introduction of Kamala Harris, and this is the first action she takes, appointing a lesbian Black chief of staff. Quite amazing.
Next, we queer up Vote 2020. Trump let slip he is blocking USPS funding to stop mail-in voting. Watch this.
Well, they're right, and it's their fault. They want $3.5 billion for something that'll turn out to be fraudulent. That's election money, basically. They want $3.5 billion for the mail-in votes. Okay, universal mail-in ballots. They want $25 billion for the post office. Now, they need that money in order to have the post office work so it can take all of these millions and millions of ballots.
President Donald Trump admitted in a Thursday morning interview with Fox Business' Maria Bartiromo that he will block additional USPS funding and election assistance to sabotage mail-in voting. In a Wednesday evening press conference, Trump said he would not sign off on either the $25 billion in emergency funds for the USPS or the $3.5 billion grant to help the post office's processing of election mail that Democrats are advocating for in the next possible federal COVID-19 relief bill. It has been reported that while Congress initially intended on giving the Postal Service a $13 billion grant, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin stepped in to squash the measure, telling lawmakers, you can have a loan or you can have nothing at all. Critics of the president say that he has now said the quiet part out loud.
Well, shocking today in this announcement, his tweet and communication. It is absolutely designed to interfere with the process that the vast majority of states allow, which is voting by mail, including his home state and where we're broadcasting from here in Florida. The president has said it's great to vote by mail in Florida because our Republican governor has done such a good job. This move is completely designed to thwart the election process of the United States of America.
I think he is starting to panic. I think he's starting to realize that there's a big chance he might not win this election, and he's trying to figure out how to change that from happening. And I don't even think sabotaging the USPS is going to help him at all.
Next, we're going to queer up Vote 2020 in reporting the Republican Lincoln Project is crushing Donald Trump. But it is the enemy of our enemy, my friend. Watch this.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is the America we believe in, where hard work means more than family wealth, where compassion and kindness are strengths, not weaknesses. This is the America of our better angels, the best of America. Strong, compassionate, determined. On November 3rd, a new beginning. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's time. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The Lincoln Project, a group of disaffected Republicans opposed to Donald Trump, is beating the president at his own game. They're getting under his skin. The group's nonstop cutting ads generated within hours of Trump's latest verbal atrocity air on cable news and online. They pull no punches, pointedly calling out Trump as a racist or unfit for office. The group doesn't target usual voters as much as one specific voter, President Trump. The ads mainly air in Washington, D.C., and when they know the president will be traveling to one of his golf resorts, the television market in that area. They want him to see the ads.
You know, this is a funny story to me because right now the opening line was, "Is the enemy of our enemy our friend?" And I'm kind of loving some Republicans right now at this very moment. I think this is brilliant. I think this is funny. And I like this story.
It's very interesting because the question here is, it's a group of disaffected, no Trump ever Republicans. But 5 years ago, 10 years ago, George Bush in the 2000 and 2004 elections were very anti-LGBT. They're the same people. So it does beg the question, the enemy of my enemy becomes my friend.
Next, we queer up gay culture. Queer sex columnist lands book deal on the art of sluthood. Alexander Cheeves, who has written about sex work, kink, and gay sexuality for The Advocate, is a self-described slut. Slut is another word for expert, Cheeves said. I don't think we fully destigmatize that word as a culture. Cheeves aims to do that with his upcoming book of essays, the first in a 2-book deal he signed this week with Unbound Edition Press. The collection is tentatively titled Love, Beastly. The essay's on sluthood and is expected for release in the fall of 2021. Queer people have been at the vanguard of sex movements in the past, and I think it's important for us to continue that, said Cheeves, who believes sexual shame is a sickness that can only be cured through overexposure. And I, for one, agree with Mr. Cheeves.
Interesting. We queer up gay culture tonight in reporting that GHB, a dangerous party drug, is widely available even online in marketplaces and is growing. Occurring naturally in the body, GHB was first synthesized in a laboratory in the 1960s. Although its application in medicine has always been limited, GHB has had various recreational uses. In the 1980s, health food stores marketed the compound as a dietary supplement. Then in the 1990s, the drug found its way into American nightlife. It is not addictive, but what makes it so dangerous is 2 extra drops are the difference between an experiencing a sense of euphoria versus being passed out for hours. And most partygoers won't have any expertise on how to dose themselves or others. This is why the growth of the drug for the LGBT community must pay attention to the dangers of the drug, according to experts.
Next, we queer up the USA. More trans people have been murdered in the year 2020 than all of 2019. After only 8 months, the number of trans people killed this year has surpassed the number for all of 2019. In the U.S. last year, 26 trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people were known to be murdered, according to the Center for National Transgender Equality. In the year 2020, at least 28 transgender people have been murdered so far. Of these 28 victims, 23 were transgender women, 4 were transgender men, and 1 non-binary person. Most of these victims have been Black and Latina trans women. To combat this epidemic of violence, it is suggested access to safe and affordable housing be increased and policies that protect transgender people from discriminalization, and increased economic opportunity be introduced.
Next, we queer up Vote 2020 in reporting a gay former Trump official calls Joe Biden homophobic because he didn't pick a gay vice presidential candidate. Yesterday, Former Vice President Joe Biden announced Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate for 2020 presidential election, and Democrats recognized her as the first black woman and the first Asian American to be on a major party's presidential ticket. But apparently that's not enough to satisfy gay former Trump administration official Richard Grenell, who accused Biden of homophobia for picking a straight running mate. On Twitter, Grenell accused Biden of believing that gays are a security risk because gays and lesbians were not even considered for the position. Grenell does not appear to be generally concerned about getting gay candidates into the White House either. In 2019, Grenell attacked Out candidate Pete Buttigieg for criticizing Pence's record on LGBTQ issues, calling Mayor Pete's criticisms a hate hoax against Pence. Now let's queue up all of the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment called Quarantine Quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting of coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBTQ community. First, we report on coronavirus case numbers. Based on standard acceptance of 7% of the LGBTQ community, the world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 1,466,699, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 376,710. We remind you that America continues to be ground zero in the pandemic. The USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, but today America is 25.6% of the world's cases. Next, we report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 52,522. Well, America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at a staggering 11,871. The USA is 22.4% of all of the deaths on this planet.
Quarantine Quickies. CDC says this fall could be the worst ever if COVID-19 measures are not followed. Watch this.
The coronavirus death toll in this country hit its highest point in several weeks. Yesterday, nearly 1,500 lives were lost across the nation because of COVID-19, and the pandemic is blamed for killing more than 166,000 Americans. Now, the head of the CDC is issuing a dire warning. Get serious about public health guidelines or risk the worst fall in U.S. public health history.
A top federal health official is issuing a dire warning. Follow recommended coronavirus measures or risk having the worst fall in U.S. public health history. For your country right now and for the war that we are against COVID-19, I'm asking you to do 4 simple things. Wear a mask, socially distance yourself, wash your hands, and be smart about crowds, said Dr. Robert Redfield, director of the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. I'm not asking some of America to do it, he said in an interview. We all got to do it.
You know, we've had 2 consecutive days in Florida of our highest death rate in COVID. This is the middle of August. It is happening because of what happened Memorial Weekend and 4th of July weekend. We are approaching Labor Day weekend and now the fall in this prediction from Redfield, director of CDC. We're either going to choose to do it right or to do it wrong. One mitigates this virus, the other leads to death.
This is super scary, and it's shocking to me how many people in our country, A, think it's a hoax, or B, are not believing this is real. I know so many people that are currently or have been sick, including Al. And it is scary. This is real, people, and you should respect yourself and protect yourself. If anything, just wear a mask.
We continue in our quarantine quickies, and once upon a time, I would have thought this story was fake. It's an April Fool's joke. It is not. As a Florida sheriff requires no mask to be worn while record deaths are occurring in Florida. You're not going to believe it. Watch this.
And a bold mandate this morning coming from one Florida sheriff, Billy Woods of Marion County. He is near the Ocala area, and he says his deputies and other employees are forbidden from wearing face coverings while on duty. The same rule applies to anyone visiting the sheriff's office. Sheriff Woods says he has found the same number of professionals saying masks are not needed as those who have said they work. Marion County has had just under 6,800 cases of COVID-19.
Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods, this is where Ocala, Florida is, has instructed employees of his office in Florida not to wear masks when they are on duty, barring some exceptions. There is no longer any debate, nor is this up for discussion, he said in an email to all of the employees. If a person does not wish to remove the mask, they will be asked to leave. If a visitor feels uncomfortable standing in the lobby with others, Wood advises his employees get their cell number and have the visitor wait outside, since masks are not to be worn in the office. Florida has become an epicenter of this pandemic worldwide, reporting more than 550,000 coronavirus cases and 8,700 deaths due to the virus. Marion County has had at least 6,798 confirmed cases and 104 deaths, according to Florida's health department.
This story is shocking and appalling. If I was one of his officers with a suspect or criminal or somebody reporting something at my desk, coughing and sneezing without a mask or sniffling, I would lose my mind and I would try to get him fired. This is a true story of how redneck trash is a lot of Florida.
I have been to Ocala Pride many, many times, and I will just tell you, I wish I could say this is an April Fool's joke, but it isn't. If I was a voter, regardless, red or blue, in Marion County, and the sheriff did this, this is the reason why elections matter, period. Next, we queer up our segment called Good News. After and you can see why we do it next, we finish our headlines, and then we want to report on something that made us smile today in Good News.
Queering up, good news. A nurse saves 3 babies in Beirut hospital. Beirut suffered a horrible tragedy that led to hundreds dead, and the city forever changed. But we are happy to say there are also heroes during a crisis such as this. And that is good news. Watch this.
More than a week after the heart of Beirut was shattered, this morning Pamela Zeynoun takes us back to the day her world blew up. New CCTV shows the view from the top of Beirut's St. George's Hospital. New video inside the hospital shows the moment of the blast. Pamela, a NICU nurse, was at her desk.
And I heard something very loud. The ground started shaking underneath me and everything came crumbling down.
She crawled out.
Where is my babies? Where are the babies?
The blood of her colleague splattered on the incubator.
I couldn't see them because all the babies were covered with rubble. I grabbed them, I disconnected them, and I held them well and went through this door outside. Everything here was bloody. I was shaking, my hands were shaking. So what happened is I was doing this all the time, this movement, to see if I still had three heads between my arms.
On her way out, this now viral photograph shows her calling for help. Alongside a doctor, she ran 3 miles through the devastation to find a working hospital.
People started coming to me asking me, how can we help you? I told them, please, just give me t-shirts, anything you could take off and give it to me so I could wrap the babies up so they don't lose their temperature.
And when she got there, there was only 1 incubator left.
They were all okay, they were all bathing, they were all asleep at that moment. So I felt a moment of peace when I had them back in this incubator.
2 of the babies Pamela saved were triplets, Sadra and Ali. Their sister Zahra discharged last week. Their mother says they feared the worst. All we saw were their blankets. Then someone said they were with Pamela. She found the only way to express this kind of thanks.
Tonight we are broadcasting from our studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Educational Center. The museum is located in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We joke that we're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth.
Just slightly gayer tonight because Aaron's not here.
Less
by the
gay,
way.
less gay.
Less gay, yeah. We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale for making this set in this living museum possible. We end tonight's broadcast with The Big Finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Queer News Tonight's The Big Finish. The LGBTQ community gets another billionaire.
Okay, so in 2011, he takes over Apple as CEO. Then he came out as gay in 2014. Then he becomes the first Fortune 500 CEO to become an out gay person in 2014. 2020, he becomes the first gay billionaire. Okay, I think I'm doing this all wrong. I came out first.
It was a long lead up to a good joke.
Yeah.
It is nice that the LGBTQ community can be represented in such an exclusive club, no doubt. But it will be even better when the LGBT youth homelessness in America isn't a thing anymore, and that's a lot more important. But certainly, Tim Cook has been a gayer, gentler, kinder than Donald Trump. So that's a plus.
Absolutely.
The Big Finish. Bianca Del Rio, ever heard of her? She says she probably wouldn't return for an all-winners edition of Drag Race.
You know, I wouldn't return either. Speaking of millionaires, her net worth is $2 million. And this bitch is banking right now. And she is a fan favorite. In reality, she doesn't need to put herself on the show to remind her fans how awesome she is. That and the judges called her a one-trick pony with her makeup and silhouette always being the same. Psst. Someone should also tell RuPaul her silhouette hasn't changed in 13 years.
Bianca, please. If they wave enough cash, you'd go back into that show hopping on a pogo stick if they told you to. I remember you in the daylight and the heat of New Orleans, Mardi Gras, the Bourbon Street Awards, you remember? And my Rue cruises, you remember? Come on, let's get real. P.S. I love Bianca Del Rio, seriously. The Big Finish. Enraged anti-masker is literally carried out of the store by his son.
This story is super sad to me. I can only imagine this child has to deal with a drunken father on a regular basis. I, too, have been very embarrassed about my father. But this story would be funny if he was carried out by his 10-year-old child.
Well, I have to tell you, as a man with his own issues, with his own father, I have all the empathy in the world for that son who had to physically remove his father from the scene. Gay son, Southern Baptist, father. The Big Finish. Gina Davis says, men are broken?
Not only did she say they are broken, she said she's going to fix them. My question is, girl, how? Do you have a magic vagina, and where do I get one?
Strange. I didn't realize I had invited her into my bedroom on a Sunday morning to talk to my friends. Get it? Broken. The Big Finish, notoriously anti-LGBTQ. Misty's going to laugh later at that joke. The Big Finish, notoriously anti-LGBTQ Home Secretary Priti Patel reveals a plan to fully decriminalize the sale of poppers in the United Kingdom.
So in the United Kingdom, gay men everywhere are celebrating. They may not have VCRs, but I bet you most gay men have VCR head cleaner. And confession, I never understood the hype. Poppers have always given me a headache and I don't like them. Now, if you want to talk about maximum impact, then we can talk.
Wait, are we still talking about a substance or something else?
It's like a popper.
I see. No, you missed my joke. While I will not be surprised if we find out later she bought stock in some company known to sell poppers, there always seems to be a catch. I would have tried poppers, but oh yeah, I remember why I never had.
Tops don't need poppers.
The big finish. Herman Cain's Twitter account attacks Biden and Harris from the grave.
Okay, this takes internet trolling to a whole new level. It's easy to spit out anonymous hate from behind a computer, but from the Twitter of a deceased person, that's despicable.
The Simpsons, by the way, predicted this years ago. It was an episode of The Simpsons. The dead will vote Republican on November 3rd, and Trump is going to be reelected because of it. Be afraid, America. Be very afraid. We end tonight's show with a photo essay. Queer News Tonight is proud to present a photo essay reflecting on some of the amazing accomplishments and amazing bodies of Broadway bears, well, which has been strip-teasing into our LGBTQ hearts since 1992. Our production staff had a really, really hard time sorting through all, thank you for getting that joke, through all of these photos of barely clothed men. So I hope you can really appreciate their sacrifice and hard work in the name of art. Watch this.
Queer News Tonight and Happening Out Television Network pay tribute to Broadway Bears. Broadway Bears was created in 1992 by Jerry Mitchell, then a Broadway dancer, as a way to raise awareness and money for those living with HIV and AIDS. In Broadway Bears' first year, Mitchell and 6 of his friends danced on a New York City bar and raised $8,000. 6 months later, Mitchell recreated the night. This year's event was pushed back to 2021, but fans were able to stream top clips from old performances as part of Broadway Bears Zoom In on August 1st. Including the Zoom event, Broadway Bears has raised over $23 million for HIV and AIDS causes.